Okay, so when you are tackling a reading passage, this is going to be the method that we teach our students on how to tackle a reading passage. Very first thing, actively map the passage. Actively map the passage. Now, a lot of you are saying that the passage is tough to wade through, that it's long, that it's annoying, that it's boring, that you don't have time. Now, remember what I said. You have 13 minutes. Okay, you have 13 minutes to read and answer the questions on every single passage. About 10 questions or so, 10 or 11 questions. And then about a 750 to 800 word passage. If you took 8 minutes to read the entire passage and take quality annotations on it, and then still gave yourself 5 minutes for the questions, you would find out that you actually have a plenty of time to attack these passages. What the problem is, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an example of what a lot of students do on test day, and tell me in the talk to David here below my head if I'm correct. They read the passage, they go to question one, they look at question one, they go, oh, I have to go find that. Then they go back and they read the passage and read. Then they go to question two, and then they go back to the passage and read. Then they go to passage three, and then they go back to the passage and read. They go back to question four, and then they go back to read. How many times are you reading the passage? 12? 12 times? 11 times? You're scanning it every single time trying to find out where everything is. You actually have time. You just don't use the time you have efficiently. And that's a very common thing for people on tests. And you can see the number of people are here saying, that's me. How did you know? Were you watching me? But that's exactly what we do. And so what we try to teach you to do is you actively map the passage. When you read a passage like this that we've got on screen, I'm not going to write down every single detail. I don't need to, do I need to know what a cabin boy wears or anything like that? No, I don't care. Do I care what Mark Twain's dad was? No, because it's right there in the first line. So I'm not going to write all of that down. But what I'm going to write off to the side is these smaller notes to show what each of these paragraphs are about, so that when I see a question asking me about Mark Twain's childhood, I know to go back to paragraph one, because that's what paragraph one is. That it was about his childhood. It was about what he wanted to be. So I mean, his dreams of his childhood, the background of his childhood, something along those lines. And then the second paragraph, that's all I'm going to write. I'm just going to say, something like this. I'm just going to say Mark Twain's dreams and childhood. That's all I'm going to say. And I know then if there's any questions, then I'm going to go back there. On this next one, I'm going to write down something along the lines of the boy who went away came back. Something like that. I'm going to write that down there. I might write down here something along the lines of, how the boy acted, how he was, out there and he was always scrubbing the bolt and talking about stuff, and everyone would envy him and loathe him. I mean, this is a very emotionally charged line, so I might underline that. But I'm engaging myself with the passage. I'm not just reading it blankly and staring at the paper like I want to do. I'm actually paying attention to it so that I can do better on the questions when they pop up. So when we get to this third paragraph, we're going to see this guy. So let's see how this works, okay? So we're reading about this guy and what he's talking about, how he's doing all of this stuff, and he's like talking about his trip. He's using fancy words and all of these things. And so tell me, how would you describe this boy? How would you describe this boy based on what is talking about in this paragraph? How he's always using the fancy words, how he's, trying to show off a little bit, how he had all the money, the women were all impressed with him. Think about if you have a person in your life that talks about all of the awesome things they've done and they've seen and that they've been in part of, and all of that and everything like that. And they're just kind of like, hey man, look at me. Someone put in there, okay, I'm starting to see a word pop up. He's kind of cocky. He's a show off, right? Yeah, very good. Conceited. He knows that this is driving the other boys nuts. You know, someone said Jay Gatsby, like, well, it's not quite that far. I mean, do keep in mind, he's still just working on a riverboat in St. Louis. He's not, you know, he's not like a captain of industry and you know, with a mansion. But he, compared to the other boys growing up there, he is definitely something for them to stare at and be impressed by. So we don't want to go too far, but we just want to just boil it down. So now we know if they're asking a question about the boy, we're going to go right back to that paragraph. We don't have to scan the whole thing. We just go to that paragraph, okay? So after we've done that, then we go to the questions. Again, now notice the order. We don't do the questions first. We do the paragraph. We do the passage first. There's too much to remember trying to remember 10 or 11 questions when you go back to the passage. So you want to do the passage first and then the questions. Do not do them the other way. That's another big takeaway. Then we're going to look at the question stem, which is going to be this portion. When we say question stem, it's the part before the answer choices, okay? We're going to look at that. And so we're going to go so far as to we're not even going to look at these answer choices. We're going to cover them up with a block. We're going to cover them up with our hand because we don't want to see them. We want to predict the answer. We want to come up with it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the questions. We're going to say, all right, in lines 23 to 25, hey, that tells me where I need to go. That tells me what I need to look at. So we're going to go back to lines 23 to 25 and read there. Again, we don't have to scan the whole thing, just those pages. This is where, hey, remember we marked this? All could see him and envy him and loathe him. And we talked about how he was being cocky and braggadocious here, trying to make you envious. Look at what Twain said. It makes you wish he was dead. I mean, it's like you hated him because he had everything you wanted. Okay, so we've looked at the clues, and now we're going to go back and we're going to again cover up our answers. And on test day, put your hand on it. You know, who cares if someone thinks you look like a loon? They're going to be getting the questions wrong, and you're going to be getting them right. So you know, appearances on the test don't matter. um, so we're going to go back to the questions. We're going to go back to the question, and now we're going to predict. We're going to predict without looking at the answer choices. We're going to predict. Why do you think that the author referred to them as steamboat technicalities? So this right here. So think about that whole thing we just talked about. We just talked about how he was being braggadocious, how he was trying to make people envious of him. What was it? Why did Twain call them steamboat technicalities? So give me some ideas in the Talk to David here. And again, if anyone has any tech issues, please talk to our off-camera rating party. They'll be glad to help you out, okay? Because I saw someone put something into the Talk to David here about their video. And so just talk to our off-camera team, and they will be glad to help you figure that problem out. Okay, somewhat great. This prediction that just popped in here was fantastic. He wanted to appear superior to the other boys because he knew vocabulary they didn't. Wow, perfect, perfect, perfect way to crystallize what just happened there. Okay, so let's take this block off and see. You can actually vote in this what is your prediction. I'm going to clear it out and vote in the what is your prediction down at the bottom right and let me know what you think it is. Okay? Remember what that prediction was. That person gave us a great prediction. He wanted to appear superior because he knew vocab they didn't know. Okay? So vote. Oh man. Rating party. This is why we do what we do, right? This is why. Let me broadcast these results. This is crazy. Almost over 90% of you have gotten this question right with answer choice A. And you're exactly right. Answer choice A is correct. For that, in my classes, when you get over 90%, you guys get a star because that is fantastic work. Predicting it, mapping it, taking notes, coming up with the answer before we look at the answer choices. That's what you do to maximize your questions on the test, how to get them right. Because remember, we want to move quickly, but we want to move efficiently and effectively to where we get questions right. All right, so we're going to jump to writing and language. I want to show you a couple of things about this as well. Um, did you all, how many, what did you guys think when you read the instructions at the beginning of the writing and language passage? Tell me in the Talk to David here. There was a heck of a lot of stuff, right? Yeah, it was definitely the instructions were jam packed. Um, yeah, it was so much stuff. And somebody said I didn't read it because I knew what to do. You're darn right. It's the same instructions every time. Why waste time reading this whole page? We know what we need to do. We just need to go and fix the stuff that's wrong. We need to go in there and we need to fix the grammar. We need to go in and make sure that the questions, the tone, all of that stuff is right. Exactly correct. And that's what our method talks about. Reading the passage, identifying what is wrong first, eliminating answer choices that don't address the issue, and then plugging in the other ones and getting the most correct, concise, and relevant one. Okay? So that's exactly how you're going to deal with it. You're just going to be moving through, being very efficient, plugging in answer choices, and being careful. Okay? So we're going to clear out this poll and this one. So this first answer choice, we'll go to the first one. One of the earliest music forms to originate in the United States was jazz. One of the earliest music forms. So the first thing we do is we look and see, is there anything wrong with that answer choice? Are any of you, this is a good confession time. Confession's always good for the soul, and it's good for the SAT score. And to talk to David here, are any of you ever afraid to pick no change on a question like this? Anybody ever afraid to pick no change? Yeah, there's some of you that are saying no, but a lot of you are saying yep, yep, yep. Part of that comes from your teachers, and I mean your teachers loved you, and they're trying to help you to do well long term. But honestly, classroom teachers, and they'll probably tell you this, what they're teaching you to succeed at long term is not always the best thing to do as far as how to succeed on a test. Like sometimes teachers will tell you all of the above, none of the above. Those aren't legitimate answer choices. But on the SAT, no change is a statistically legitimate answer choice. It should be picked multiple times a test. If you're not ever picking it, you're going to miss questions. So you've got to get that out of your head that that's not a legitimate choice. So on a question like this, some of you may have looked at A and said, I don't want to pick no change. There must be some other one that's better. Well, let's look and see if there are any that are better. One of the most earliest. Well, we can't say most earliest. That's not a grammatically correct phrase. So we can knock that out. The most early music form. First of all, it says the most early music forms to originate. So if it's the most early music form, we can't introduce a new error. And we also, it never said the most early. It said one of the earliest, you know? And so if I was to say that one of my classes is science, that doesn't mean that is the only class I'm taking. I can't change it to say the class I'm taking if I'm taking 7 classes. So we're going to have to cross out C. Then we get to D, the earliest. Same problem. We've added some meaning to the sentence that we can't do that. We can't say it was the earliest. We can say one of the earliest, okay? And so that does leave us with A as the answer choice. We've eliminated everything else. There's nothing wrong with what they said. Don't be afraid to pick no change. It is the right answer, okay? So let's move to number 2. Known as truly mid-American because of it apostrophe S having origins. Let's another confession time. But I'm not going to ask about you. I'm going to ask about your friends. Do you guys have any of those friends on social media that don't know how to do its or their or your, Y-O-U-R? Y-O-U-R is your. Y-O-U-R with apostrophe is you are. Yeah, okay. It's not you. None of you do it, right? It's always your friends. Man, people these days, they don't know how, right? So it's is one of those words, okay? the way to check its is if it has an apostrophe in it, that is a contraction. So its always has to equal it is or it has. That always has to be the case. So what you can do is you can plug in it is and see if that works. Because of it is having origins, that does not sound good at all. Therefore, it is wrong. And it is not no change because it is not the right answer. So then we plug in the other ones. What the heck is C? It's apostrophe S. It's this is. What? That's not even a word. Actually, neither is D. It's apostrophe. No. We basically end up having it. There's only two options. It's either IT apostrophe S or ITS. And so when we eliminate IT apostrophe S, we pick ITS, and broadcasting results, again, amazing, over 90%, another golden night star. All right. Now we get to the dreaded sections, right? Am I right, people? We get to the dreaded sections. We jump into math. Oh no, math is so. I already have people in the chat going, "Oh, I don't want to do math. It's so ugly." Math can be bad. It can be, but don't get worried too yet. Don't worry yet. It's not nothing yet, right? Here, I want to take that star off. That was a preemptive star. Okay. One of the things you'll notice about the SAT is that the math has a lot of words in it. Okay, like sometimes it makes me feel like the math is trying to steal any hope I have of doing well on the test. You know, it's like we're not going to let you do well on this test. It's going to hope where they're like Ultron. Hope I'm going to take that first. The math section is going to take that test. Hope first. But we're not going to let it take our hope. We're not going to let it take it away. What we are going to do is understand that some of this is useless information, and they do give you useless information. And so in our method, what we do is we make sure we understand what are they actually asking us? What information have they given us? And is all of it useful? What can we do with that information? And then so importantly, am I actually done? Okay? So what is the question? The very first thing, what is the question? It's that last sentence. If the plane travels at an average speed of 500 miles per hour, wah, wah, wah. That is the actual question, okay? So that's what we need to be focusing on. Now, they just want to know the initial amount of fuel and subtracting the used amount of fuel. That's what we're trying to figure out. Now they give us all of this information. Right off the bat, is there anything in that information? Tell me to talk to David here. Is there any of that information that's useless? Anything useless in that? Yeah, a bunch of you are figuring out. The 600 passengers. No one cares how many people can fit on the plane. It has no bearing at all. None. Okay? So what we did is we figured out what are they asking us? That's the first step. What do they want us to find? Secondly, find out all of the information that they gave you. And then just start to see, is any of this useless junk? Someone else put out this flight 818. Yeah. Do you think that it was an accident that they put numbers at the end of flight? That they actually wrote flight 818? No, it's because we're on a math section. We're triggered by numbers. We see that 818 and we may think that has to play into something. It doesn't. And so what we end up doing is we need to make sure we figure out what information do we actually use. The SAT, the new SAT, has become very wordy. Okay? Why ask a question in 23 words when you can ask it in 107? That's their mind. That's their new mindset. And so in this particular case, there's a lot of words and a lot of numbers, and some of it is useless. And so we just get rid of it. Okay? So now we have the information that's actually going to help us. We're going to try to set up the equation. Okay? And the big thing to pay attention to on questions like this is units. We're trying to convert. We want to make sure that we're in the right units. The question is asking which of the following functions models the number of gallons of fuel remaining. So when it tells us the following functions, we're not coming up with an answer per se. We're coming up with the equation. Okay, so we need to come up with what the function is, what the equation is. But our equation needs to be able to be telling us the gallons of fuel remaining T hours after flight. So we have to make sure that's not going to be correct. If it ends up giving us people, that's not going to be correct. It needs to give us gallons, okay? So we're going to start off the initial amount of fuel. That's right here, 42,000 gallons. They showed us that. We plug that into our equation, set that up, 42,000 gallons, okay? Then we're going to subtract how much fuel they use. And so to do that, we have to plug in these other pieces of information in the right order. Because remember, we want gallons minus gallons. So at the end of this, we have to have this second half of the equation give us something with gallons. So we're going to always write your units down. When you're writing your workout on math, always write your workout. That's another good piece of advice. Always write your workout and always write the units down, okay? Because in this case, that's going to help us to know what we need to plug in. We want gallons left over. So we're going to make sure that our miles cancel out here, our hours are going to cancel out here, and that's going to leave us with gallons minus gallons. All of these are ways to make sure that you are being efficient and effective on the test. Those are two big words I use all the time because I want us to do that on test day. If you are able to do that, you're going to get more questions right. So once we reduce everything, once we cancel out all of the units, we're going to end up with 500t over 0.2. So which of those answer choices matches what we just came up with as we worked through the problem? Should be pretty obvious. Because it's the same, exactly what we wrote. But if at any point in those steps you got lost, please talk to our rating party. They are there. Jane and Laura and Crystal and Deb and Beth. You probably don't understand the wealth of knowledge that is off camera in this room. They just put me on camera because I'm so pretty. The rest of them, they're off camera and they are just the most knowledgeable, amazing women that can help you so much to get these questions right. And so if you have any questions, talk to them about it, okay? The answer choice is A. Answer choice A matches exactly what we had said. Again, over 90% of you got that one right. Another golden star for you guys. Awesome. Now, let's jump. Let's save the best for last. In the words of Vanessa Williams in her 90s hit, save the best for last. So we have this no calculator section. No calculator. Okay. You got to work through these still. It's a short section, but it's a very important section. And you got to learn how to get through these questions. And some of that is going to be noticing certain things that the test makers always do, okay? So they give us a system of equations here. They love giving systems of equations. Again, we remember our method. We want to know what is the question. Well, we want to figure out the value of x over y. That's the question, okay? What information did they give us? Well, they gave us two equations. Then what can we do with this information? Well, I'm looking at those two equations and there's something I don't like about that. Can you tell me what I should notice in the Talk to David here, what I don't like about these two equations? Someone said they're not done. Yeah, they're not. They're not lined up. They're not simplified. Exactly right. They're not lined up. They're not simplified. What we need to do is we need to get them so that they look the same. That is a huge tip for on test day, is make your equations look the same. We want them to look the same. So we're going to reorganize these two equations to where they look the same. We don't have to put it into y equals mx plus b. We don't have to do any of that. We just need to make them look the same, okay? So when we end up doing that, this is what we're going to get. X plus 2y equals 4 2x minus 6y equals 3. All right? Now, on test day, when you're dealing with systems of equations, let me ask you guys this, because you seem like an interesting bunch. I want to see what they know. So, when you have systems of equations to work with, there's two different ways you can tackle them. You can deal with them substitution, or you can deal with them combination/elimination. Substitution or combination. Which one do you prefer? Talk to David here. Okay, so substitution. This class, you guys are a little bit forward thinking over others. I would almost say this is a 50-50 split. A 50-50 split between these two, okay? Because yeah, it is. Now, on test day, substitution generally is considered the most wanted version. That's normally, substitution is normally the one that most people would pick. You guys, like I said, are a little forward thinking, and so more of you think about elimination than most. But even still, 50-50, 60-40, a lot of people pick substitution. On test day, the test makers are going to ask you a lot of times to do elimination. So get in the habit of doing elimination and combination, where you multiply one equation by a number to make a letter drop out. Okay, so in this case, we multiplied by 3. Then our y's are lined up so that they just go away. Okay, now it may not make a huge difference on this question, but it can make a huge difference on a lot of other questions. So get in the habit of using elimination as your default, not substitution. Substitution will work in a lot of questions, but in this case, just getting used to that is going to help you out, okay? So when we do that, we get 5x equals 15, x equals 3, okay? X equals 3, so we would mark C on the test, and we would be on our merry way and just go, right? Tell me in the talk to David here. It's the answer is C, right? Because there's 3, x equals 3, and then we're good to go. So what are you talking about? There's a whole lot of people that are complaining. Oh, I forgot to divide them. So I want to introduce you to somebody. Admiral Fratbar. It's a trap! On test day, traps are huge, okay? They are going to put these massive traps in here where partway through the question, you get an answer and then they put it right there for you, okay? So Admiral Fratbar, in my classes, he reminds our students to be careful about traps because there are plenty of them on test day, okay? It's a trap. And so we're not going to be doing 3. You're right. We still need to divide by y. I messed that one up big time. Okay, so now we're going to plug the 3 back in. We're going to find y, and y is going to be 1/2. Hey, look, answer choice A is 1/2. So that's the answer, right? Because y is 1/2 and x was what? Oh, come, a bunch of no again. It's not what the question asked. It's another trap. Look at this. Y equals 1/2. It's a double trap. Right. You guys are catching on so fast. What is the question asking? The question was asking for x over y. So x, trap. Y, trap. We actually have to do one more step and get D, which is the answer choice. And let me tell you something, that question wreaked havoc in our poll. Our star streak ended because you guys were picking all over the place, and that's exactly what they're trying to do on test day, is they're trying to show you multiple options to get those people that don't work a question to the very end. They don't ask this, am I finished? And so then they end up snagged on one of these traps. It grabs their ankle. They're like, I'm stuck. And then they miss it, and it's just a terrible, terrible thing. Someone asked why we multiplied by 2. So we were dividing x by y. 3 divided by 1/2. That's the same thing as multiplying. If you're dividing by a fraction, it's the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And so we multiplied 3 times 2 equals 6. And that's how we would get the final answer. B is another trap, because if you don't flip that fraction on the bottom, if you just put 3/1/2 and then have a little brain glitch, you pick B. So all 3 of the wrong answers were traps. Yeah. And so make sure you know, what is the question asking, and then at the end, did I finish? Did I give them what they wanted? If not, I need to go back and fix this thing, okay? So hopefully those are some really good strategies that helped you out. Hopefully that was some stuff that you can apply, because that is going to be on test day. You're going to see stuff like that nonstop. Now the goal of all of this is to get you into college. And just like this kid running off to find the ice cream truck, you guys want to go to college. Yeah, I'm going to college. And so let's look and see what you need to do to get ready for test day. First question, so many students ask, when should I take the test? And then the other thing they asked is, what is the best way to prep, okay? So when should you take the test? Now, according to our poll at the beginning, about 2/3 of you were juniors, and then a little under a quarter were sophomores, okay? So here's what I would tell you. Juniors, you usually take the tests in spring of your junior year. So we've got the January test coming up, but then we have a March, May, June. Those 3 tests are going to be the ones where a lot of juniors take those. It gets them a score in, and then they still have the fall of their senior year in case they need to up that score a little bit, okay? So I would encourage you to take that March, May, June, at least one of those tests to get ready and have a score in there. Think about this. Colleges base your admission on your junior year, because they don't see your senior grades when they're, I mean, the last admission day, like when you're turning in applications, is January usually. And so you barely even have your first semester scores. So most of their admissions decisions are based on your junior year. And so taking your SAT at the end of your junior year is going to make perfect sense. You'll know everything that you need to do. What I would do is find out your college. What college are you wanting to go to? What are their admissions requirements? How do you find that out? Hop on the Googles, jump on the Googs, and get on there and type in University of Central Florida SAT admissions requirements. And you find out what they want from their students. Okay? That becomes your target. And so then you aim for that. So when you ask us, is this a good score? Where do you want to go? If you want to go to Harvard and you need to get a 1500, that's what you would need to get, okay? If you want to go to University of Central Florida and you need a 1300 to get the scholarship you want, that's what your goal should be. You know, if you want to go to Flagler College in St. Augustine, then that's going to have a different score, going down closer to 1000 or 1100. And so it all depends on your college. And when you should take the test, how many times you should take it, it has to be taken into account with these things, okay? Are you in sports? Are you playing baseball? Are you, in the musical at the school? Do you have a job? Stuff like that. Don't take a test on the week of the musical. Don't take a test the same week that you're taking AP tests. You're going to be overloaded. Try to fit it into where it can be your sole focus that weekend, okay? And if you are going to a college that needs subject tests, there's only certain dates that the SAT offers those. So if you're trying to take the SAT subject test for something, I think March is usually a date that they offer those. Well, you can't take the SAT the same day you take the subject test. And so all of that needs to come into play when you're deciding when to take it. For you sophomores out there, you still have time. You still have plenty of time to prepare, okay? And so don't rush and say, I got to take it right now because I got to get a score in. You take it when it's most beneficial to you. So that junior year, those junior dates, those are great. It still gives you a leeway in case you need to do something else, okay? Now, as far as what is the best way to prep, I want to make sure that we talk about prep options as well, okay? And I'm going to put up a couple of polls here. I'm going to resize them a little bit so you can get to both of them, because we just want to know like what your thoughts are on some of these things. So we have what you see here, what we've been doing today is very similar to an online class, okay? And so this would be, you'd come in here, you'd have an on-camera teacher, you'd have off-camera teachers. You can take them in short bursts to where it's like 3 times a week. You can take them to where it's once a week for 3 months. I'm teaching a class. The first teaching session is tomorrow, and the class literally does not end until the March SAT date because we have every Sunday. So it's like we have tomorrow, and then we don't meet again until January, and then we have a couple of days off here and there. And so that's one of those longer classes. There's some that are shorter. So, and there's some that are aimed for more West Coast students and some that are aimed for East Coast students. And so there's so many options online. It's fantastic. In person, those are going to be, if you live in a major area, if you live near a major college, there's going to be online, in person, on site classes. Okay. You're going to be able to go into an actual building with a teacher in front of you and all of that. That is still an awesome option. The online, the in-person, they both are great. Either one is going to be awesome for you. Um, there is a thing called unlimited prep. Unlimited prep is amazing, especially for those of you who are sophomores in here, because that is unlimited prep from now until you graduate. And you can prep for the SAT, the ACT, the PSAT, plus you get math foundations. It's just a spectacular program. And we have so many students that do that. They take classes for all the tests. Like, we get to know them because they've been in several of our classes, and it's just really cool. It's a super option, and you can see it's less than taking 2 classes. And so unlimited prep, especially for you sophomores, fantastic, because you still have the PSAT coming up next fall. And so you can take classes for that. And also, just so you know, there are some promos running right now through the 19th. We have tutoring promos and teaching promos. That $200 off, $250 off. So this one right here, I just want to throw this up here. If you do score 200 for this one, you can do score 250 for this one, and score 350 for this one. That'll knock that number of dollars off on each of those. And then tutoring packages, we have, there's a couple of different ones. One of them is up to $500 off. And so it depends on how many hours you want to take. So those prices do not include those discounts. So if you are interested in doing a class, those promos are kind of like a holiday special type thing. And so you can take those. They're good right now. And so score 250, 200, 350. What do those mean? What does that actually include? Your class actually includes all of that. It includes the books. It includes the practice tests. It includes online materials. You can watch on-demand videos to reinforce a session, or if you miss a session, you can go to a different teacher's session. You can go to an online session. You can go to an on-demand session. You get score reports on every single test you take so that you can know what areas to actually focus on and become better at. One of the absolute best things that we introduced last year is the SAT channel. This is like, we call it the Netflix of test prep. You actually can go and watch specific sessions about specific topics. So like this one, reading for points on test day. You know, if you struggle with reading, how can you get more points? How do you actually read to get those points? You know, if you're struggling with trig or imaginary numbers, like if any of you are overseas students, imaginary numbers isn't always taught as much. You know, maybe that's something that you would want to go to the SAT channel class on that and get some actual information on imaginary numbers. The SAT channel, completely awesome. And it comes with it. So does a quiz bank, to where you can generate your own quizzes on any topic that you want. Just super stuff. I mean, quiz banks are like my favorite thing to have students do, because they can say, I'm like, you're really struggling with triangles. Go do some quizzes on triangles. And it's just on triangles. They're not wasting time looking at ratios and all this other stuff. They're just looking at triangles or any questions that deal with triangles. And so that's like a fantastic thing that you can get as part of being a class member. The other big thing is we guarantee that you're going to score higher. Yeah, we do. We guarantee it. If you aren't happy with your score, let me rephrase, if you aren't happy with your score, not if I think your score is good, if you aren't happy, then you get to take the class again. You get to go and take a whole nother class, perfectly free. See if that helps. If you're not satisfied with the end and you're like, I did not get what I wanted, my score went down, whatever, higher score guarantee, you actually can get your money back. Okay. We stand behind it. We believe in what we're doing because we want you guys to get better. And we know that we have the tools and the teachers that are going to help you. If you're willing to put the work in, we are going to help you get where you need to go to get to college. Okay. And that's what we guarantee that. We promise that. And so that is an awesome, awesome thing. So if you do want to, if you are interested in signing up, if your parents wanted more information, you can call 1-800-CAP-TEST. The enrollment counselors, they're not just salespeople sitting there being like, hey, can I sign you up for this expensive class? They're actually teachers. They're SAT, they're Kaplan teachers who know what their students need and will listen to your parents and be like, okay, so here's this my student's story. And they'll be like, oh, well, I think your student really would benefit from this. And it's not necessarily going to be like this, AKA the most expensive thing. No, it's going to be this, the best thing for your student. And so you can definitely talk to them afterwards. But you also can ask us questions right now, okay? I mean, if you have any questions, throw them into the Talk to David here, put them into the Q&A. We're here to answer your questions, answer your parents' questions. We want to help you out. If you don't have any questions, you can head out, man. You can have a great afternoon, a great weekend. Thank you so much for coming, for being a part of this event. We hope that it helped. We hope that you were able to take down those pieces of information that are going to help you on test day to get a higher score and get to the college that you want. Thank you so much. I mean, and keep track of our website. Go on to captest.com, bookmark that, look at the free events. I know some of you took the PSAT this fall, and you're supposed to get your scores back on Monday, from what I've heard. And so to let you know, there is a free event coming up next weekend that we're actually going to be going over the PSAT scores and what they mean. And we also are going to have that offered in January again. December 18th is going to be that first free event. If you did take the PSAT and you want to know what that actually meant, what your scores meant, then go sign up for that event and come on next Sunday to that. And I've taught that session before. It is great. So much information about the PSAT and what it actually means. There's so many pieces of misinformation. What's the tag? Fake news. There's so much fake news right now about the PSAT. Find out what it actually does and why you took it. So that's December 18th. There's another one in January. So I mean, keep checking out the free stuff on our site. Thanks again for coming. Let's see if there's any questions that we can answer for those of you who are sticking around. Like I said, the discounts, we do have some discounts, and I'll throw them. I'm going to actually go back to that page that showed